Appreciate your attending today. I have two speakers today. eSecurity Solutions will be the first speaker. That'll be myself. I'm a CISA. We'll be giving a background into human risk management and taking sort of a broader perspective of the topic. Nathan Walker, who is an expert from KnowBe4, will cover the second part of it, and he will be giving you KnowBe4's perspective on human risk management, which is a focus for them 100% of the time. So I thought that would be a great presentation and topic for you guys today, and I'm very excited to have you have it in our webinar series this year. So I'm going to start by talking about why humans are weakest link, why we should care about that, how are humans causing security breaches, look at the different ways that humans are the cause of security breaches, taking more of a holistic approach to managing human risks, and then what are the benefits. Nathan's going to do a focused view of human risk management and talk about the solutions that they provide. So I have a few slides. I just want to set the backdrop for this. So if you do research on human risk management and how often that is an issue or a cause of problems, the majority of surveys show that there's a majority of breaches that are due to human error, risky employee behavior, or insider actions come from the data leaks from compromised, careless, or negligent employees, which if you have a lot of employees, certainly you will find all of those situations occurring at certain times. So a very high percentage show up in these surveys as being the cause. This has been true since the beginning of time. Will continue to be. Certainly all the issues related to sharing passwords, bypassing controls, and unprotected devices. These are things that we're used to seeing as IT and security experts. So how are humans increasing security risks, right? So if they're the cause, what are the situations that we're having to deal with? Phishing obviously is something that is near and dear to KnowBe4's business. That's where they got started. Phishing and testing, and that we see malicious links, we see CEO fraud, social engineering, careless and malicious use of company data. That's something that if it's careless or malicious, these are very hard to protect, and it does require systems, security systems, to try to prevent that in use of untrusted cloud apps and then storage and things like that. Those are things that just do not happen without security systems involved. Malicious websites, since the beginning of time, has been an issue. Companies will hijack financial websites or pose as financial websites, which is typically what they want to impersonate, since there's banks and pay your payroll and so forth and so on. We've seen that. Our customers have seen it. And then credential loss through various causes, right? Weak passwords, administrators, or employees, both, and then poor, careless, malicious credentials management. So if you look at a holistic approach to solving the problem, if you really think about it from a whole security point of view, it should start with doing risk assessments on your company and prioritizing your security solutions that you need to address the gaps, right? And once you've done that, you will have solutions required in a bunch of different areas. If you look at what KnowBe4 does, their solutions are in various areas, such as monitoring and detecting. This phishing is monitoring and detecting what you're doing with your email and other communications. That's a good solution for testing, but then email security is required, which will can also tell you what's going on, not just prevent it, but it can also warn you or give you information about what's going on that you're doing that's not the right response to emails that come in. But let's not forget about endpoint detection and response, monitoring, detection, response. These are all monitoring and detecting solutions related to human that can detect human issues, right? Human vulnerabilities or breaches and that sort of thing. Preventing, if you look at prevention, security awareness training, but not just MFA for for credential prevention, protection, but PAM solutions for administrators. The latest set of solutions are zero trust and secure access, service edge type solutions for all your assets that are now out in the cloud, your applications, your servers in the cloud, your people working remotely from at home. This is a big focus for companies today. Web security, EDR are all required to help prevent resource or human management issues. Response, MDR, there's a lot of different types of MDR. SIEM will also provide UEBA, which is user behavior monitoring, and managing those solutions once you've implemented them with 24/7 monitoring, securely configuring them, expert management. So this is a continual process. It's part of what security is all about. It's what compliance regulations call for, a continuous process of maturity, security maturity improvement, right? So bottom line is, the risks come from multiple sources. You need a complete strategy, and you need a complete set of solutions, not just tactical solutions to address these problems. At the end, the benefits are lowering your risk of breach downtime. If you do get a breach, it lowers your costs to recover from the breach, and also reduces your reputation loss potential. Regulation compliance is the obvious benefit of human risk management. And then let's not forget about cybersecurity insurance, and even your ability to get that, where the bar is coming up every year, and what your requirements have to be in order to make yourself more insurable and also lower the rates, because you have security implemented. As a company, eSecurity Solutions provides one-stop security solutions for companies, starting with GRC types services, which includes risk management and compliance solutions and so forth. Security products, working with companies like KnowBe4 and others, and also managed detection response and managed security. Our goal is to help you achieve your compliance, strong security, or basic security goals. Most companies are up in this space right here because they're serious about security. And also, if you look at that, if a little more detail, the types of solutions we can provide in GRC include penetration testing, vulnerability scanning, BCISO, gap analysis and prioritization, incident response. There's a lot of stuff up in here. And also in managed security includes MDR, and also managing of different security products like firewalls and MFA and so forth. And then security products, our focus is on to help you provide and acquire the right solutions that match your goals and your budget. And we have access to all the top security providers for products. So given that, I'd like to transition over then to Nathan's presentation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate everybody being here today. As Tom said, this is Nathan Walker, and I'm eSecurity's representative within KnowBe4. And today what we'll take a look at is how KnowBe4 can help you address the #1 cybersecurity threat in your organization. First, I'll just share a quick cybersecurity story with you. So I have worked from home for most of my career, and while sitting at my computer one day in my office basement, I saw the mouse cursor on my screen start to move on its own. So I went into fight or flight mode and thought, okay, what I've been concerned about and heard about, this was before I was working in cybersecurity, I thought a hacker has taken over my computer. So went into fight or flight mode, and my laptop was running on battery that was inside the unit, so I couldn't pull the battery and I couldn't unplug. So I had the presence of mind to run out and unplug the modem and router from the wall. And I thought I had kind of a small victory, and I really showed that hacker. So I went back to my computer, and it was like a scene from maybe a cybersecurity horror movie, because the mouse cursor started moving again. And I thought, okay, I've met the world's greatest hacker. I'm not even connected to the internet. What is going on? So then I thought, okay, check the mouse. The mouse has gone crazy or something. So I noticed the mouse wasn't there, and then I started to deduce that if the mouse wasn't there, it was somewhere else. And I ran upstairs, the last place I had used my laptop, and I found my 2-year-old son sitting on the floor with his mom next to him, and he had my wireless mouse, and he was kind of shaking it around, causing the cursor to move. So incidentally, he's in middle school now and really interested in cybersecurity, and I kind of told him he started his cybersecurity career when he was 2 years old. But that just illustrates something that'll be important later, that when you face an incident, you can go into fight or flight mode. And the result of not addressing human risk in your organization is you literally may have somebody sitting at the computer moving the cursor around. So now we'll talk about a little bit about your organization and the security challenges you face. So just to be upfront with you, I'll be painting a pretty bleak picture. I promise the second half of the presentation will have some good news and some hope that we can leave you with where eSecurity can help your organization. So security challenges that you face in the workplace, you have things on your mind. You might be thinking about data breaches, ransomware, insider threats. There's also a new report saying about 67% of organizations will suffer at least one, if not more, data breaches in a year. And with the average cost of a data breach being around about $4.5 million, due to downtime, revenue loss, remediation costs, theft of funds and data, reputation damage, things like that. You also have the average cost of a ransomware incident is now over $1 million. So, and then of course, you're probably also thinking about AI and how that can be used for nefarious purposes. So on the next slide here, what we'll talk about is the number one cybersecurity threat facing your organization, and this is any organization, and that would be the vast majority of successful cyber attacks. If you trace the root cause back by far, you'll find that social engineering is the root cause or involved. And the most common example of social engineering, of course, is phishing, which we'll get into in a little bit here. Social engineering, of course, just to make sure we're all on the same page, that's the art of manipulating or influencing or deceiving somebody to get them to take an action that's against their best interest. So the hacker may have a goal of gaining access to your computer, kind of like my mouse cursor moving around, getting into your network, getting into confidential data, stealing funds, getting you to call a phone number that they've listed in the email, or maybe they want you to scan a QR code or click a link that'll take you to a login page to type in your Microsoft credentials. Or maybe if you're in finance, they have the goal of getting you to send a payment. So the person that's trying to trick you will often pose as someone that you know. So in the workplace, that could be the CEO or your boss. They could pose as a vendor, or in your personal life, they might pose as a family member. And they also might pose as a brand that you already recognize. You'd probably think of, probably everybody's received an email for claiming to be from UPS or the Postal Service, or a text on your phone. Social engineering attacks also are not just limited to email, although that's the primary vector. You can have social engineering attacks in person. Someone comes to your door, comes into your business. You can get it over text, as I just mentioned. You might get it over a video call. You can also get it in snail mail, if you can believe that. And if I were in person with you, I could hold up a piece of mail that I recently got wanting me to scan on a QR code that had some red flags to indicate it was social engineering. And then obviously with AI tools out there right now, that's what everyone's talking about. That's making social engineering worse. To quote from a book written by KnowBe4's resident AI expert. He says, experts say we're way past the point where most people can tell the difference between what's real and machine made. Photos, videos, voices, and text, AI can fake it all. The last thing I'll say about social engineering before we go on to the next slide is to ask the question, why is it so successful? And at KnowBe4, we'd say there's a couple of reasons. First, it's of course much easier to trick someone out of their password than it is to sit down at a computer and spend some time trying to hack into the network through technical means. You can also send an email, thousands of emails and phishing emails, and get a percentage of those to work. Or you can do some research online and send a targeted email and trick that person into giving up their password. The second reason that social engineering is so successful is that the threat is often underestimated. And there's often a misalignment between our defenses and what the top threats are. So to quote another author from KnowBe4, there's a lot of different ways that you could be hacked, and you're expected to prevent them all and all at once. And cybersecurity compliance regulations often have hundreds of controls that you're expected to deploy and oversee. So if you remember nothing else from this part of the presentation today, it would be that I would encourage you to consider phishing and social engineering a huge cybersecurity threat, and that if your cybersecurity defense plan doesn't address social engineering or the risk of human error, then there's a big gap in those defenses. Critical layer in your security program. So the problem that we've just kind of gone over here is pretty bad. There's a high risk and high cost to an incident and a high chance of that successful attack coming from social engineering. So the question is now kind of flipping to the good news, and the solution is, what do we do? And the answer is that we need to address the human element of cybersecurity, understanding that your employees or users of your IT assets, they need to be quote unquote hardened, just like you would harden a computer or a network with cybersecurity defenses. And we want to transform your workers from that weakest link in security and the greatest cybersecurity vulnerability your organization has, and transform them into a human firewall or your last line of defense. Okay, so now I'll let you know a little bit more about KnowBe4 and how we can help you with and partner with eSecurity to help you address the human element of cybersecurity. And then I'll actually show you some examples of what the KnowBe4 platform can do to help you with that. KnowBe4 has been around for about 15 years and has basically started the concept of formal security awareness training in the workplace. And over 70,000 organizations worldwide rely on KnowBe4 to help them manage the problem of social engineering and address their human risk. So the way that KnowBe4 and eSecurity partnering together, we can help you address that human element of cybersecurity and decrease your human risk is with our HRM platform. As I mentioned, KnowBe4 started about 15 years ago, and our main focus was security awareness training. As threats have evolved and AI has made it easier for hackers to attack, KnowBe4 was using AI before it became popular a few years ago, and we've integrated into our platform, and we have now taken the platform beyond just security awareness training, which I'll explain what that is in just a minute, a little more in depth, but have evolved to now have a more holistic approach, like Tom was talking about, for human risk management. That first element you can see there, the circle on the far left, is security awareness training. And what we do with that is we'll help your users basically become aware of the various cybersecurity threats that your organization faces, but specifically that they face as they use email and get phone calls and get texts And the way we do that is, a lot of training people take at work. There's kind of a reputation that it's time for my annual training. It's maybe boring or it's generic. Maybe you have a manufacturing floor and those workers are getting training showing actors in an office setting. So it may not be relevant to what they do. So with the KnowBe4 platform, our security awareness training, we individualize the training that each user receives. There's over 1,500 pieces of training content in the platform, 35 different languages. So you can cover just about any topic for any individual user that needs to teach them about the threats that they face. We also make the training entertaining. So you can choose from interactive games. You can have posters up in the break room. You can have an award-winning original TV series produced by KnowBe4. So it's like you're sitting down and watching Netflix for your training. And we actually have a lot of people who say, when's the next season coming out? They're invested in the characters. And we find something that sticks for the individual. Then we want to take that training and follow it up with metrics. So you can make sure that the training is actually working and who is completing their training, who isn't completing their training, things like that. And then we also want to couple that with practice. So we don't just give them training one time a year, just like going to the gym one time a year isn't going to make a difference. Our data shows across over tens of millions of users in 15 years that the best way to reduce human risk through security awareness training is to give it in regular doses. Typically once a month. It can just be some small reminder, some small training module that you give your users every month, and it keeps security top of mind and helps them make the right security decision at the moment of risk. And then you combine that with practice. So we would send out regular simulated phishing emails. This can all be run by AI. You literally would just click a button and have the AI engine decide what's the best phishing email, simulated phishing email to send out to the user and have it personalized. And then we use that data and adapt future training for that individual user. So if you have someone who's falling for a particular kind of simulated phishing test, then the very next training module they're going to get very quickly is some remedial training to help adapt to the vulnerability that that user has. And some of the things that they're going to get out of that training is as I mentioned earlier, they're going to be aware of what threats they're being faced with and learn about human nature. As I mentioned earlier, fight or flight. So if I have a phone call where someone is posing as a vendor, saying that you have to take action right now, you have to click, make this payment, or give me this information, or there's going to be consequences if you don't. You might lose your job or get in trouble. That's something that would put anybody into fight or flight mode. And so with the training and the regular training they have, it's kind of like muscle memory, where they'll remember what they learned in the moment. And then we build a security culture through this training where the users know that they're not going to get in trouble if they just take a minute to verify the request that they're getting through a valid source. The other big piece of this is cloud email security. And what you can do with that is say, with the security awareness training, the idea was even the best technical defenses, eventually a phishing email will make it to the user. But we also try to harden your first line of defense with cloud email security and prevent the most advanced phishing attacks from landing in your users' inboxes. And then also, if someone is about to cause a data breach unintentionally, maybe they send an email, they want to send it to Tom at eSecurity, but they send it to Tom at some other company, and now they have potentially a data breach or a data leak on their hands. So I'll show you an example here in just a minute, kind of how that works. Just to round out the rest of this, those were kind of the two main components, but we have some other elements that go along with it. that will, for example, have you subscribed to a global threat feed that we have for phishing emails. So if one company on the West Coast spotted a phishing email and reported it, that information goes out to our threat feed, and then other KnowBe4 customers that might have that same email coming in later or might already have it in their inbox, it can be ripped out automatically before the user has a chance to engage with it. Okay, so going back to security awareness training, just to give you a couple of examples here. You can see kind of in the middle left side, there's an actor with a suit on. That's an example of a series of training KnowBe4 professionally produced called The Inside Man. And each mini episode, somewhere around 7 or 8 minutes long, and you don't have to follow the whole series. You can just pick what's going to be best for your organization. And the very first episode, for example, has somebody going into an organization and they tailgate. So they wait for some workers that are on a smoke break and they kind of slip into the group. And then when they use their badge to get in the door, the person slides in right behind them. And then nobody stops and challenges them because they don't have a badge. And so that can be a good way if you have an office environment where you have badges and you want an entertaining way for users to remember. And I watched that episode about 3 years ago, and it really stuck with me. You can also see examples here of video modules and storytelling and games in different ways so that you can match the learning style of your users. Okay, taking a little deeper dive into the cloud email security module within HRM Plus, the Human Risk Management Platform. On the far left, you can see there it says defend. And I just wanted to point out this red banner where it says this email shows strong signs of phishing. So unlike what you might get from your current email security defenses, if this looks of any interest to you, you think this could be of value, you can have an email, a phishing email detected by KnowBe4 Defend, and it's going to apply a banner. And in this case, it says this shows strong signs of phishing. And instead of just quarantining those emails, you can have it sanitized automatically and still land in the inbox so the user has a real world teachable moment and they can actually click that red banner and it's going to explain, here's why this is showing strong signs of phishing. So if there's ever an email that isn't caught, they have the extra inoculation against that particular kind of phishing email. The other cool thing that KnowBe4 Defend will do is it has a link rewriter. So if you have a user that receives an email and they go ahead and click on the link, maybe they missed the red banner. So an additional layer of defense is they click the link and it says, are you sure you want to go here? The text said ups.com/tracking, but where you're actually going is some site overseas, maybe out of Russia, that is full of malware. The next piece of KnowBe4 email security there in the middle of the slide is called KnowBe4 Prevent. This is an intelligent data loss prevention solution. So what a lot of organizations will do with Microsoft 365 is you may have some static rules that say if a social security number format shows up in an email, don't let that email go out. You may have some other static rules, but the idea here is that probably not every rule is going to catch every instance of an example of somebody sending out something over email you don't want them to, and it may not account for human error. So I may be sending an email that's not caught by my if-then rule set up in Microsoft 365, and I send the email, like I mentioned earlier, I intended to send it to Tom R at eSecurity, but I send it to Tom B at a different company. So it's going to have a pop-up that says, it looks like you're sending this to the wrong person. And in that example on the slide there, it actually shows somebody sending something to their Gmail account. And that would account for somebody who is just an innocent user and doesn't know any better. They don't remember the security policy said don't forward work emails to your Gmail. And they're just trying to be a good worker and do extra work at home later that night. And it'll have a pop-up that says it's against our organization's security policy to send an email to your personal email account. The other cool thing this will do that I really like is if the user is about to respond to a phishing email, maybe it says, please this is, it's the boss, send me your cell phone number, I need to call you, it's very urgent, we have a big problem. And they go into that automatic type of thinking where you don't stop and think about this request and would my boss really be sending me an email like this? And you're busy, you're distracted, it's urgent, you don't want to get in trouble, you respond, sure boss, here's my phone number. But if you send that email and it notices that it's going to send that email to not to your boss where the domain name was registered 10 years ago on that email address, but maybe it was registered 7 days ago overseas, it's going to detect that that's a phishing reply and tell you, you're likely responding to a phishing email, so don't send this. Excuse me. The last piece here is that it will give you an easy to encrypt email option. So instead of having the user type the word encrypt in the subject line or however you currently encrypt through Microsoft 365, there's an easy to click encryption. And then the AI can also detect, it looks like you're sending an email that you should be encrypting, click here to encrypt. The last thing here, just to round this out, is that with the KnowBe4 HRM Plus platform that you can get from your team at eSecurity Solutions, is that all of these modules put together, the full platform is a holistic approach for human risk management. And it'll help you build a strong security culture to reduce your risk. So instead of I'm going to do training once a year because that's all the regulation requires and I want to be in compliance, and I know that that doesn't really decrease risk, I want to build a strong security culture where I'm regularly training users, regularly giving them phish tests to keep them on their toes and practice what they've learned, and also find out where vulnerabilities might be with different users. That helps me build a strong, sustainable security culture, meaning that our organization from the top down values security and everyone's role that they play in protecting the organization and our assets, and that ultimately that will help you decrease your likelihood of a real world security incident. Okay, and this is the last piece here, is that KnowBe4 did a study recently, a few months back. And remember at the beginning I said that about 67% of organizations will suffer a data breach at least once a year, if not more. We have real world data to show that if you compare public data breach lists against the KnowBe4 customer list, there's a significantly less chance that you're going to have a, based on our customer list, you're going to have a significantly lower chance of actually ending up with a data breach. All right, so the last thing you can do with the KnowBe4 platform, we have data that shows from independent sources. There's a Forrester study that showed a 276% return on investment and a payback period of just 3 months for security awareness training and part of the HRM Plus platform. There's another Forrester study that shows for our cloud email security platform a 359% return on investment and a payback period of just 6 months. All right, so thank you for listening to the presentation there, and I'll hand it back over to Tom.
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate that. The fall. First of all, I really appreciate what KnowBe4 has done in evolving their product line. I think you might have even undersold the integration part here. That the assessment, the security awareness training is a great tool, right? We've always thought that was a good tool, but if you could match that to or combine it with an email security solution that's aware of the training and then provides feedback to it, that then even looks at the weakness of an individual user so that it can therefore give them the right training, the right follow-on reinforcements, as in behavioral psychology, right? That's a pretty darn important thing. And the other thing I want to say about email security is that, like I said, we have 2 email security programs running simultaneously. The users don't know it, except that you have 2 different filters going on. So even if you're using Microsoft or something else, adding another one to that is a background test that the customer's not going to know, except you're going to be giving them a more secure environment. So if you do adopt the KnowBe4 training, adding their email security would make a lot of sense. Now, separately, if you're looking at solving the problems of security or human risk management, the process is the same as it is even in just solving, your compliance problems, right? Because in compliance, they talk about starting with the risk assessment, defining the gaps, defining the solutions, define your security roadmap, implement and manage. That's a process that has to go on in security as a whole. If you take security seriously, you have to deal with that as an ongoing process. And he also talked about maturity model. So if you can do more things over time and measure that and get better at it, that is, you are moving up in the security maturity model, which is the goal. If you're serious about security, it should be the goal of security of every company, is to get more mature. Also, to follow up with our salespeople, basically, to talk to you about how we can help you solve the problems. Again, our goal is to help you solve all your security problems, to be your one-stop security solution provider and make your life easier and more secure. Thank you very much for attending today. Hope you have a great day and a great week.